we've all had some weird childhood fears, like the thing that may or may not be lurking in the corner, tropical freshwater fish. Or a British cartoon where all the characters look like they're made out of earwax and have no souls behind their eyes. Today, we go over a few of the more common childhood fears and answer the question, are those fears justified? Starting with clowns. Which right off the bat I'm gonna say 100% justified. But not for the reasons you have in mind. See, clowning is one of the most unregulated industries. There's no guarantee that the clowns you see at functions or Twitch.com have the proper qualifications. Because guess what? The last clown school shut down in 1997. These are not trusted professionals. And would you take medical advice from a guy with no degree? I mean, people just be injecting themselves with anything these days, so disregard that last question. But I think clowns either need to start showing some IDs and certificates from reputable clown establishments, or we get rid of them and bring back medieval jesters. Because seriously, who are we inviting to the Harvest Festival? Bobo, who's never been the same after a divorce? Or Roland the Farter, who is so funny the king just gave him 30 acres of land? Next, piranhas. I don't like undomesticated bodies of water because of the stuff that's in there. In this case, well, sooner or later we all realize most of the world is piranha-free. But that never stopped supervillains from acquiring piranhas and using them as a weapon. And why wouldn't they? Piranhas have the strongest bite force out of any fish. But this is how big a piranha is. And they're not like clever carnivores that hunt in groups so they can take on bigger prey. They're omnivores that stay in groups for protection. Big stuff like you is not on the menu at all, and the only time this fish will bite you is if it feels threatened. Then again, what if they're real hungry? Well, lucky for you, piranhas never go hungry. When food is scarce, these guys are very cool with eating each other. And I can just imagine the scenario. Like, the villain has the protagonist hung up over a pool, and he takes off the sheet that's covering it just to reveal one single particularly fat fish. Oh, well, this is just embarrassing. Next, the sun exploding. The sun will explode in about 5 billion years. Well, the sun will explode is a very chicken little way of saying the sun will run out of hydrogen and become a red giant which will swallow Earth. And I don't know why this is such an unsettling thought to have as a kid. But I think I can recall 5-year-old me being like, what? That thing on the corner of all my drawings won't always be there? Will I not always be there? It's pretty much the first introduction you get to the idea that nothing is forever. Safe to say, ever since I've learned that the sun will stop shining one day, I haven't felt safety. So this fear is justified, although Earth will already be uninhabitable, like 4 billion years before that, maybe even more, because the oceans will already have evaporated. But who needs you anyway? Get back in the corner. Next, quicksand. For many of you, this was probably the first time you felt claustrophobic. But is this fear of quicksand rational? Can it be justified? No, you will not get swallowed by quicksand. It is impossible. Now, you can get stuck in quicksand, then you might want to worry about the tide. But in most cases, quicksand is only shin deep. Don't let Hollywood manipulate you. At this point, it's on you. Bogs, on the other hand, I'm still quite scared of. Hey, is that butter? Next, the Bermuda Triangle. I think we can all remember the first time we put on the tin hat. I mean, the Bermuda Triangle was probably the first conspiracy theory I was exposed to. And even as a small child with very vague ideas about what a government is, I thought, why is the government not doing anything about this? The Bermuda Triangle should be priority number 1. I knew I would never find myself anywhere near it, but the thought that it was there bothered me. Because what do you mean, vanish? But guess what? The NOAA do not even consider this area all that dangerous, given the number of disappearances isn't higher than the average for high-traffic maritime regions. Like, it isn't even the most dangerous triangle. So, is it a justifiable fear? Yes. But not because of the phenomena surrounding it, but because that's where eels go to have sex. Ew. Next, aliens. I had this fear, but specifically I had the fear that they know that I know and the next step is not. Next, the notorious monster under the bed. So, when you don't have good visibility, like in the dark, your brain fills in the missing visual information. And what our pattern-seeking brains are best at recognizing is faces and figures. This urge to turn random visual information into something familiar is called pareidolia. It happens when you see a cloud that kinda looks like a rabbit, a house that looks like a fascist dictator, Among Us, and also when you see a shadow moving in the corner of your room. On one hand, this is a very helpful survival mechanism, so I can say, yeah, monster in your room is the product of our evolutionary need to detect threats as fast as possible, so it's a justifiable fear. On the other, I know some people to this day feel real vulnerable if their feet are outside the blanket, and that might actually be ruining your sleep. Temperature and sleep are closely linked. At night, your body starts cooling down, and this tells your brain that it's time to clock out. That's why if you're too warm, you might find it harder to fall asleep. A lot of us utilize the flip over pillow trick, but there's an even better method you might not like. Your feet are great at releasing excess body heat, thanks to the high density of sweat glands, large surface area to volume ratio, and their unique vascular structure, which allows a high volume of blood to flow directly to the skin's surface. The easiest way to cool down before bed, contrary to your nighttime survival instincts, is to have your feet outside the blanket. And that's just the hard, unbiased truth. But now for a quick sponsor break. This video was brought to you by footfinder.com and demons under your bed that want to grab you by the toes and drag you away forever. Code POOPY for 10% off. While we're still on the topic of bedtime, nightmares. The reality is that the most common emotion felt during sleep is anxiety, followed by sadness, and then fear. That's because your dreams are there to help you work through issues you've experienced while awake. Which, what am I supposed to be working through here? But something else has bothered me for a while. I want to talk about two contradicting beliefs surrounding nightmares and nighttime treats. One side believes in having something sweet before bed so you can have sweet dreams. The other side has been exposed to a threat that some of you might be familiar with. If you eat sweets before bed, you will have nightmares. And I really thought this was a psyop crafted by my mother in order to get me to eat less candy. But eating sweets before bed does cause a spike in blood sugar, which of course is followed by a rapid drop, which causes the body to release cortisol. And this can, in fact, trigger a nightmare. And although only a third of participants in the study reported having a nightmare, is it a risk I'm willing to take? No. Is it a justifiable fear? Yeah. Final bonus segment. The first ever childhood fear. Let me just remind you of this. Your mom is right before your eyes and therefore exists. But she brings her hands up and suddenly she has vanished. Was it the Bermuda Triangle? Maybe the quicksand got her. Your mind is racing even though you can't sustain a thought for more than 2 minutes. Then suddenly, Peekaboo! Whew, that was a close one. Is it a justifiable fear? Yes. Here's why. Babies do not understand that things continue to exist if they can no longer see them. aka, they can't comprehend object permanence. But how can you be sure that that's not the case? To be is to be perceived. And if you think about it, the only thing that exists for certain is your mind. And everything else might be a projection of your consciousness and therefore, kaboo! Oh, whew, that was a close one. I have a soft spot for evolutionary psychology theories. According to experts in the field, it's more beneficial from a survival standpoint for our weak-ass offspring to assume that the knocking on the window is something dangerous that will eat them than to think, oh, it's probably the wind, and ignore what can possibly be a threat. Better safe than eaten. And you gotta admit, this also greatly benefits parents. In nearly every country's folklore exists a figure that just kidnaps bad children. Like, it wasn't even elaborated what will be done after I get kidnapped. I just march my ass to bed, no questions asked. And maybe just secretly hoping that the one bro from kindergarten gets visited by the one because he bit me and that's a kidnappable offense. Before I end the video, what slightly more specific childhood fears did you have? And did you overcome them or are they still kinda there? I know it's a little crazy and I think specific to ex-Soviet countries, but I used to be terrified of communism. Age 5, my grandma got me freaking out about corruption. But now I'm just scared of what TikTok thinks communism is. Also, if you missed it, the Poopy Show was actually featured in the last V-card set, Divine Chaos. Again, shout out Bakudrod. I hope you pulled that secret rare, because I couldn't. Shout out GamerSubs, code Poopy for 10% off. And I don't even need to tell you what my favorite flavors are right now or say how much better subs are compared to other energy drinks. That's right, I've been sponsored by GamerSubs for so long that I just call them subs now. Also, they've been the only sponsor for so long that when I don't plug, people comment about it sounding genuinely concerned. So go, buy, purchase, code Poopy. I moved out of London. I'm trying to sell out. Or maybe I joined the TikTok communists. Who knows? Use my code. Okay, bye.